Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, more Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists arrested overnight as IDF forces coming under heavy fire during a raid in Jenin. Meantime, police getting riled up as World Cup celebrations becoming dangerous threats to society. And finally, welcome to the School of High Tech, an incredible new partnership between Google and Israel's Reichman University unfolding. Intense violence overnight in Judea and Samaria as Israeli forces re-enter the terror hotbed of Jenin for another series of arrests. Heavy clashes between Israel and Palestinian terrorist militants reported in Jenin overnight as Israeli troops, including some who were undercover, raiding a Jenin business late Sunday evening. 3 Palestinians reported wounded and arrested along with an M16 in the clashes as Israeli forces coming under live fire and explosives. A local wing of Palestinian Islamic Jihad terror members confirming their encounter with the Israelis. Then in other overnight arrest raids, some 18 Palestinian terror suspects detained. No IDF troops were injured during the mission. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said of a Palestinian teenager who at this time seems to have been caught in the Jenin crossfire. She was reportedly found dead by gunfire on her roof at her home in the city. The Israeli military acknowledging that they are aware of the 16-year-old's death and that an investigation is underway. Meanwhile, a Palestinian man who hit a motorcyclist in Tel Aviv last Thursday is now believed to have had nationalistic motives. The Shin Bet and Israel police upgrading the suspected traffic accident to suspected car ramming terror attack. This after the 31-year-old Palestinian driver had arrived to Tel Aviv illegally from Judea and Samaria in a stolen vehicle, and the victim, Gilad Tanami, saying that he knew it was a terror attack by the behavior of the driver. Speaking from his bed at Ichilov Hospital, Tanami saying, quote, "I looked up and saw a car accelerating in my direction, and then he continued driving with me and my motorcycle under the vehicle for about 40 meters until he got stuck on a pole." Joining me now with more on the overnight raids in Jenin, CEO and founder of the Israel Defense and Security Foundation, Brigadier General Reserves, Amil Avivi. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, what more can you tell us about the raid in Jenin last night? It seems like it's a big operation, judging by the number of forces involved and how several were apparently undercover until the operation unfolded.
Well, we have to remember that these operations are always done according to very accurate intelligence, usually brought to the army by the Shabak. Jenin is a very complex region, mostly dominated by Islamic Jihad, an organization that is funded by Iran and is a proxy of Iran. We know that the Palestinian Authority is no more controlling this region. It hasn't been controlling it for the last year. So the combat in this region is intensifying all the time. And the IDF is sending together with the Border Patrol the most elite units, some of them in disguise, in a pinpoint operation to catch terrorists that we know that are about to launch a terror attack against Israelis, whether it's in Judea and Samaria or in major cities along the coast. Right, so this is what we saw this night. Every time they go in, it's not just apprehending the terrorists, it's also fighting on the way in and out. Wow. Against armed terrorists.
All right, now, just hours ago, there was actually another attack on Islamic Jihad in Jenin. The terror group is blaming Israel for a car bombing, as it seems to have targeted members of the Islamic Jihad engineering unit. On a macro scale, what do these raids and other recent operations like them mean in the fight against Palestinian terror groups, particularly those like the Palestinian Islamic Jihad?
Well, what we see overall is that all the terror organizations, including Iran, that is weaponizing and funding these terror organizations, are concentrated on Judea and Samaria and East Jerusalem, and especially in the northern part. In this region, basically, the Palestinian Authority is not controlling the area. And then we see Islamic Jihad, Hamas, and other groups that have been working together with them, including groups from the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, that have detached basically from the PLO and are working alongside the Islamic Jihad. Now, they are working very hard on trying to produce car bombs and explosive devices, just as we saw in the terrible attack we saw in Jerusalem a few weeks ago with two explosive devices. And of course, our intelligence is trying to really uncover these cells and arrest them or attack them.
All right, now, an argument can be made in that the more Israel uses a so-called heavy hand, the more enemies pop up. And in that same vein, when a vacuum is created, new groups erupt like the Lion's Den terror organization in Jenin. How do you respond? Is Operation Breaking the Wave having the intended effect or creating more enemies?
I think that without this operation, nobody's life in Israel would be normal. The fact that overall everyday life in Israel goes on is because of this operation. Without it, we would have been in a terrible situation. And I think that the operation is very successful. Now, there is a lot of incitement everywhere in the Palestinian society. There is a lot of funding and terror initiative, and we have to deal with it. And the only way to do it is to continue and operate all the time. Every time we have intelligence go in, we are not punishing the whole society. We don't see large-scale attacks on the cities. Everything that is done is really preemptive according to very, very accurate intelligence and against specific terrorists. And when we go in, if other people shoot at us, then we'll respond, and that's what we do. Now, we have to say a good word to the Shabak and the IDF again and again. They operate in this very complex area, and 99.9% of these operations are extremely successful. And going in and out, managing to do the job and without any soldier hurt, this is an excellent operation for the IDF and the Shabak.
All right, Brigadier General Reserves Amil Avivi, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Now, speaking of security, just hours after reportedly striking Syrian military installations in the Golan, Israeli Defense Forces apparently dropping threatening pamphlets across the area, warning Syrian soldiers in league with Iran to stop cooperating with the Hezbollah terror group in Lebanon. Written in Arabic and addressed to Syrian army soldiers, the leaflets bearing a silhouette of an eagle, the symbol for the IDF's 210th Bashan Division, which is in charge of defending Israel's northern border with Syria. And though the IDF refusing to comment publicly on the papers, the text appearing to show the IDF taking responsibility for the strikes overnight and saying, quote, "Time after time, you've been responsible for the harm caused by your decisions. The continuing presence of Hezbollah in the area of Tel Al-Kalib and collaboration with Hezbollah has brought and will bring you nothing good. The presence of Hezbollah in the area has brought you humiliation, and you are paying the price for it," end quote. Now, meantime, this apparent IDF warning coming just days after Israel sending a similar message to Hezbollah directly. Jerusalem reportedly warning of a direct attack on the Beirut International Airport should Iran continue to be allowed to ship weapons to Hezbollah aboard civilian aircraft. But rather than complying, Hezbollah apparently just relocating its militants and arms from army installations near Damascus in eastern Syria, the terror group instead transporting weapons and munitions to more heavily fortified storehouses in fear of Israeli attack. The hard part is seemingly behind him now, Bibi Netanyahu moving forward with his political campaign to reset the government in Jerusalem. With a new extension in hand, Likud chairman and incoming Prime Minister-elect Benjamin Netanyahu moving forward with his so-called legislative blitz. The idea being to quickly pass at least 3 major bills in order to make his coalition agreements possible, including by rearranging and in some cases expanding ministerial portfolios. And to that end, Likud's Yariv Levin finally named as the new candidate for Speaker of the Knesset, or at least temporarily. The Speaker needing to be swapped in order to bring the 3 bills to a vote, And then after the coalition is sworn in, Yariv Levin is expected to take on a ministerial role. Now, as for the controversial legislation coming to the docket, the first bill is the so-called override clause, which would allow a slim majority vote to overrule the High Court, in this case for the benefit of appointing Shas leader Aryeh Deri to the cabinet despite his multiple corruption offenses. The second is to expand the Public Security Ministry to include policy and directives across Judea and Samaria. The new ministry, dubbed the National Security Ministry, and it will be placed under Otzma Yehudit's chief Itamar Ben-Gvir, who himself is multiple times convicted of supporting the Kahanist terror organization and racist incitement. And finally, third is to put the West Bank building policy under the auspices of the Finance Ministry, or effectively under the Religious Zionism Party's chair, Bezalel Smotrich. Now, in other news, Prime Minister Yair Lapid getting the flu vaccine, as well as yet another coronavirus vaccine ahead of the winter, and Lapid publishing the images in a call to all citizens of Israel, especially those in at-risk populations, to follow suit. But is this a friendly reminder or an ominous warning? To discuss, I'm joined by Director of the School of Public Health at Ben-Gurion University, Professor Dradav Davidovich. Professor, it's great to have you back with us. Now, I'm sure that I've asked this before, but how many more COVID vaccines are we going to need, and how often should we be getting them?
So, first of all, I always prefer friendly reminders and not panicking. Many other infectious diseases, we get lots of boosters. By the way, including polio right now, there is circulating vaccine-derived polio, and people also got the boosters. Probably what's going to happen, similar to influenza, that we're going to get every year an adapted version. I really recommend, especially for high-risk people, to go and be vaccinated. There is a sharp rise now in cases. We see it in the sewage wastewater sampling. And we need to remember that vaccines saved about 20,000 lives just in Israel. But vaccines are not enough. There are many things we can do. And there's not only COVID. We have influenza. We have strep A now. Also in Israel, we have lots of upper respiratory infections. So hygiene, not going sick to work, not sending your child sick to school, all of the things that we know. And on the national level, strengthening the healthcare system, strengthening hospitals and community healthcare, because always during the winter, we have the same situation that we need to have, unfortunately, in the corridor, some of the patients, and that's definitely not a good sign.
All right, well, Israel had a really high compliance rate, arguably, with coronavirus vaccinations, but how has that high level sustained, or are Israelis maybe just not as concerned as they should be anymore?
So we started with a beautiful, amazing vaccination campaign. It's hard to believe, but it happened just 2 years ago. By the end of December, I was vaccinated at Soroka Medical Center. It's a Ben-Gurion University hospital. But after a few months, unfortunately, things started to become much harder. We need to do much better, especially vaccinating young adults and children. It's also very efficient there. And there are parts of the reason why we continue to see the spread. We need to have a vaccination law, not to enforce, but to have enough resources, enough people that are doing health promotion, not just on a national level, but working with communities, working with community leaders, with rabbis, with other religious leaders. And I'm I want to stress the importance of having vaccines, not just of COVID, but other diseases as well. We mentioned influenza, but also polio right now. And we're doing now a study at Ben-Gurion University with the Ministry of Health about vaccination rates for other diseases, those in the regular schedule that unfortunately we didn't push enough in the last 2 years. And that's something we need to remember. There is vaccine hesitancy, unfortunately, because of infodemics. There is lots of fatigue because of COVID. But vaccines are really efficient and safe and important. There is a socioeconomic gradient. People that are from low socioeconomic groups are less vaccinated for COVID, and that's something we need to address. So not just universal messages, but also targeting specific groups.
And Dradav Davidovich, you mentioned, of course, to have a law backing this infrastructure for coronavirus vaccines and, of course, the campaign not to legislate it. So hopefully, I think with that, we can say that nobody is hoping for another lockdown, nor do we think that that's a realistic scenario at this point, thankfully. Professor Davidovich, thank you again so much for joining us.
We're not going there, and the zero cases policy of China and other countries is totally unattainable, and also the cost benefit is really poor.
Sure.
So yes, living with COVID, but doing the right things, as we mentioned.
Dradav Davidovich, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Celebrations turning sour as soccer fans across Israel stir up trouble and arouse police attention amidst the festivities. In an incredible showing of unity, Arabs, Jews, Israelis, and Palestinians are all coming together in celebration of Morocco's historic advancement in the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Morocco beating the Portuguese team 1-0 over the weekend and becoming the first African as well as the first Arab team to ever reach the semifinals in the tournament, with the next scheduled match set for Wednesday against France. That said, while wonderful on the one hand, the celebration's getting far out of control, way beyond dancing in the streets. In communities across Israel, particularly in Arab and Bedouin towns in the Negev, celebrations marked by shooting huge fireworks and more dangerously loaded firearms into the air. Additionally, many communities throwing rocks at police and forming gridlocks on highways. The police then responding, saying sportsmanship will be allowed, but there is zero tolerance for wild antics or violent incidents. Likewise, the local council in the Bedouin town of Tel Sheva releasing a public statement reading, quote, "People are happy for Morocco and celebrating the win is fine, but throwing rocks and damaging private property is no way to celebrate. The police intend to bring soldiers over to impose order, so please keep your children safe and stay home." And finally, incoming National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir adding that police need and will soon receive a backup to restore said order. Ben-Gvir stating that, quote, "People smashed traffic lights and threw rocks at police and police ran away. Is that normal? When I enter office, things will change," end quote. And now in news from the startup nation, Reichman University and global giant Google are joining forces to establish a school of high tech here in Israel. The details in the following report. Reichman University and Google's Alphabet Inc. have partnered now to establish a school of high-tech which will provide equal opportunities to those seeking to integrate into the Israeli high-tech industry. The school will offer technological and business courses to prepare students for professions that are in high demand in the Israeli high-tech market, including courses in programming, software, business development, sales, and more. The courses will offer academic credits towards an academic degree combined with the most up-to-date professional training, and Google will provide scholarships to the participants so that tuition fees will not be a consideration in the admissions process, in turn enabling underrepresented sectors of Israeli society such as women, ultra-Orthodox, Arabs, Ethiopians, and those from the geosocial periphery to join the field. Classes will be held on both the Google campus in Tel Aviv and at Reichman University in Herzliya. And founding president and chairman of the board of Reichman University, Professor Uriel Reichman, saying that the School of High Tech is being established out of the national responsibility and a belief that it is only through education that we can promote social mobility. He adds that the university will continue in its mission to strengthen social resilience and to train the future leadership of Israeli society. And now with more on the incredible partnership between Google and the Israeli Reichman University, Jonathan Davis, Vice President of External Relations and head of the Raphael Recanati International School at Reichman U. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. Now, what can you tell us about Reichman University's new partnership with Google?
Well, what I can tell you is that we've established a one-year program in computer programming, sales, and data analysis. There's a severe shortage of skilled tech workers in Israel. It's part of our Zionist mission statement to cooperate and to collaborate with Google. And basically, we are going to be offering this to the underrepresented groups in Israeli society, such as the ultra-Orthodox, Ethiopians, Arabs, who we would like to recruit into this program. And we would like to be able to take in 500 individuals every year. And what they study can be used in the future towards a future degree. But the one-year program, which they will complete, will be enough to enter into the market.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, I understand, though, that you're also opening a new medical school on campus.
Yes, we're opening a new medical school, maybe for the same reason that we would be opening this previous program. There's a great shortage of medical doctors in Israel. Most medical doctors in Israel have to go overseas to study because there's not enough room at Israeli universities. So we took upon ourselves, Professor Uriel Reichman, as part of his mission statement, to establish a medical school at Reichman University, and it should be opened, God willing, in the academic year 2024-25, and we're full steam ahead.
All right, now back to technology. Reichman University has received high rankings in entrepreneurship in the world, and we are the startup nation after all here in Israel, but what does the university focus on or do differently that it receives such high marks?
I believe that because we teach entrepreneurship in every subject that we teach. First of all, we have the only school of entrepreneurship in the country, which is called the Edelson School of Entrepreneurship. We also are providing an undergraduate degree in entrepreneurial studies. But I think the key to our success is that in everything we teach, be it government, law, psychology, communications, business, economics, computer science, anything we teach on this campus, we always infuse a level of entrepreneurship so that our students, when they graduate here, they hit the ground running and they basically are the owners of entrepreneurial tools, which they take with them when they graduate here.
All right, so Reichman University also has the highest number of international students studying here in Israel. You had the international school. What can you tell us about this?
Well, we have a huge number of international students here, 2,300 from 90 different countries. According to the statistics of the Council for Higher Education, a majority of, I would say that we are number one in the country, according to their statistics, in the number of full-time students for academic degrees taught in English, be they undergraduate or graduate. And that definitely has to do with our Zionist mission statement, because making it available for these 2,300 students to come and study here, on the one hand, a not insignificant number of them end up remaining in Israel. Others who go back overseas become great ambassadors for the state of Israel. So in a nutshell, it's a great program and the largest international school in the country.
Again, though, why place such a heavy focus on international students? Reichman is also ranked #1 in Israel in terms of student satisfaction generally. So what is the university doing differently or doing better than other universities here in Israel?
I think the other universities are also doing a great job, but our mission statement is a Zionist mission statement. And we feel that by providing 2,300 students, most of whom happen to be of the Jewish faith, although we also have students from all other backgrounds, but part of the Zionist mission statement is to make it possible for students to come here and study academic degrees in the English language, which in the past has discouraged many graduates of Jewish day schools around the world from coming to study here because their mother tongue is not Hebrew. So while we provide an ulpan during the actual academic courses, we teach the courses in English. And so it makes it possible for people from all over the world to come here, graduates of Jewish day schools, others, Jews, Christians, Muslims, others alike, to come here. But the actual establishment of the international school is definitely because of the Zionist mission statement of wanting to attract more students to specifically come to Israel itself.
All right, Jonathan, thank you again for joining us and giving us a look into this amazing opportunity.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I wish you the very best.
All right, now let's take a look at the weather forecast. The forecast is calling for partly cloudy skies around the country both tonight and tomorrow, with tonight's lows averaging about 12 degrees Celsius or 54 Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow seeing cooler temperatures as well, with highs expected to reach 22 Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all of your devices, check out our ILTV channels on YouTube, Facebook, and Telegram. Subscribe to our ILTV newsletter. I'm Aaron Porras. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.